Well, hello and welcome. I'm Miss Heard with Miss Heard Song Lyrics Podcast. We're at Season 6, Episode 288. The Miss Heard lyric is, I'm gonna harden my heart. I'm gonna swallow my tears. And then the correct lyrics is, I'm gonna harden my heart. I'm gonna swallow my tears. You guessed it, Quarterflash. I'm excited to do this because this is a band that's local of where I live. So I'm in the northwest part of Oregon. And they are from what we call the Northwest, from Portland, Oregon. So just a town just quickly, maybe 20 minute drive from where I live. So let's begin. Quarterflash's Heart in My Heart is a song by, again, American rock group Quarterflash. It was written by guitarist Marv Ross and included on the band's debut album, also called Quarterflash in 1981. The song was originally released as a single in the early 80s by what they used to be called Seafood Mama. And then they changed their name to Quarterflash, and you'll explain what Quarterflash means in a bit. The Quarterflash version of Heart in My Heart that we're talking about today is the one that became a top 10 hit in the U.S. And I'll tell you where it peaked at the Billboard Hot 100 a little bit later. So who is Quarterflash? So apparently, I guess they used to spell it with two capitals. So quarter, Q, capital Q-U-A-R-T-E-R, capital F-L-A-S-H. And I guess they dropped the capital F, so it's just Quarterflash, one word. It's an American rock group actually formed in 1980 in Portland, Oregon. That's the Quarterflash version. The band was originally made up of lead vocalist and saxophonist. Yeah, she played the sax. It's so cool. Orinda Sue, and she goes by Rindy Ross. I think she's married. Yes, she's married to Marv. Born on June 26, 1951. She's still with us, thank God. So is Marv. And her husband, guitarist Marvin Ross, born January 30th, 1951, along with a Jack Charles guitarist, Rich Yelnardo, who did keyboard synthesizers, Rich Gooch for electric bass, and Brian David Willis in drums and percussion. And in a 1982 interview, Rindy Ross said that she viewed the saxophone as an extension of her voice, enabling her to express things she could never express with her voice alone. And I have to say, I have to find it on YouTube, but I think I saw them also perform on one of my favorite shows as a kid, which was Solid Gold, where back in the day, 80s, they would have artists come and perform snippets of their song. And I believe they performed and she pulled out the sax when it was time to do it. So I think that's just punk rock right there. Okay, so the group was formed by merging two popular Oregon bands, one called Seafood Mama, formerly Beggars Opera, and Pilot, not to be confused by the Scottish band of Magic fame. And then they continued under the Seafood Mama name as the band, and they originally released their picture-sleeve single, Heart in My Heart. So they actually did Heart in My Heart with Seafood Mama, but on a local private label, I did not know that, called White Fire Records, in the spring of 1980, with the B-side track being City of Roses, which is great because where I live, Portland, Oregon, it's the City of Roses. I did find a website because I was doing searches because people said actually they were named something else before Seafood Mama, even Beggars Opera. So there is a website for those of you that want to be music sleuths called Northwest, so nwmusicarchives.com, all in one. And it states, quote unquote, this rock band began as Jones Road in Bend, Oregon. Later, they relocated to Portland and became Seafood Mama, a popular nightclub band. Membership included Rindy Ross, lead vocals and saxophone, her husband Marv Ross, guitars. Then circa 1980-81, they revamped the band again, adding Jack Charles and guitars, Rick Diagianardo, sorry Rick if I'm butchering it, keyboard synthesizers, Rich Gooch for electric bass, and Brian David Wills and drums, percussion, becoming Quarterflash, who enjoyed, of course, several big radio hits. So Heart in My Heart was a big hit first in Portland, Oregon, where I live, with the radio stations locally. And it got the band a 1-hour TV special, I got to find that on YouTube, called Seafood Mama in Concert on our local, what we call Channel 6 News, KOIN, we call it affectionately, back on June 5th, 1980. Wow, so about 45 years ago, roughly. Heart in My Heart would later be recorded by the band after they renamed themselves Quarterflash, and that's when everything hit big. What is Quarterflash? What's that name? Well, the name came from an Australian slang description of new immigrants as a quarterflash, 3/4 foolish, which the Rosses found in a book at producer John Boylan's house, and they're like, let's call ourselves Quarterflash. They signed with Geffen Records and released their self-titled debut album, like I mentioned earlier, also called Quarterflash, in September of '81. Well, here we go. Put on your seatbelts, because away we go. The song itself hardened my heart, but the Quarterflash version reached number 8 on Billboard's top LPs and tapes chart and sold over 1 million copies. Now, again, this is back then when people had to actually go to the record store to buy it. No downloading of any sort. And then they earned their AA Platinum status on June 30th, 1982. The album contained the new version of Heart of My Heart, which became their biggest single, and like I said, reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the top 10 in France. All right, the French loved them. The follow-up single from the album, Find Another Fool, reached number 16. And then a second 1-hour Portland television special called Quarterflash in Concert was also broadcast on Channel 6 Coin, or KOIN, on October 22nd, 1981, and a simulcast on a radio station, rock station here in Portland, Oregon, called KGON. This concert was taped at the Paramount Theater, presently now called what we call locals the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall, but back then it was called the Paramount Theater. I did not know that. Back on October 15th, 1981. And in between albums, the band appeared on soundtracks of 2 of 1982's biggest films, charting the theme to, did not know this, Ron Howard's Night Shift, wow, up to number 60 on the Billboard Hot 100, and landing one of the B-sides, Don't Be Lonely, in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So they did music for film and well-known people, my goodness. And then Quarterflash released their second album called Take Another Picture in 1983. It reached number 34 in Billboard and scored the single Take Me to Heart, which reached number 14. At some point after this album was released, both Charles and Di Gionardo left the group. Opting to continue as a 4-piece, the group completed a third album featuring contributions from unofficial group keyboardist, guitarist David Brandt, released in 1985, called Back into Blue. It peaked at number 150 on Billboard, so it's getting lower and lower, right? That made, it was clear the group decided to disband after getting dropped from Geffen Records, because the hard thing, like in sports, same with record labels, you got to keep winning. You got to keep selling. If you aren't, you get dropped. So in 1990, Quarterflash reunited. They hired some session musicians, including bassist, vocalist Sandon Wilson, drummer Greg Williams, guitarist Doug Frazier, Mel Weave, and Mel Kubik. There's 2 Mels, all right, on saxophone and keyboards. The group released Girl in the Wind on Epic Records. So they got it with Epic. And then in 1991, Rindy and Marv Ross founded the historic music ensemble, the Trail Band, which was formed at the request of our Oregon Trail Advisory Council to commemorate, to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Oregon Trail. So they were formed for that. Fast forward June of 2008, both Marv and Rindy Ross released a new Quarterflash album called Goodbye Uncle Buzz, but it did not chart at all. They tried again 5 years later in September 2013, and they released a new album called Love is a Road, which also failed to chart. I mean, sometimes you can only hit lightning in a bottle once. They hit it twice, possibly 3 times. That's when they announced, well, maybe we need to just relax a bit. So the Rosses announced back on March 23rd, 2019, so what is that, 6 years ago, they had a concert at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, and that was their last show as Quarterflash. So those that are able to see it were lucky. They continue to perform as a duo. So who knows, they might come out of hiding, right? So question is, how was the song created? So what I found on the interwebs was guitarist and songwriter Marv Ross said, quote unquote, "A friend of mine gave me the title, Heart of My Heart. I came up with the lyrics very quickly. The title came first, and I don't really remember how the rest came about. I usually write the music and words simultaneously. It wasn't a personal story, just made it up. The chords are simple, but voiced so as to make it sound more complex than it is. The whole song is really the groove, which we call a shuffle in those days. Rindy came up with the sax line. The whole thing was written in less than a week and recorded in our basement for the Seafood Mama version. It sold 10,000 copies in Portland and Seattle and was the key to us getting signed to Geffen Records." So there you go. That was kind of the impetus. Once they redid it under Quarterflash, that's when lightning struck. Like I said, the first version was recorded as Seafood Mama in their basement in Portland in 1980. And after they changed it, re-recorded the song at a record plant in Los Angeles. Ross said the re-recording had a better guitar solo as well as a better sound quality in general. And after changing their name to Quarterflash, they released their self-titled debut album in 1981 that contained the new version of Heart in My Heart, Rest is History, and this power ballad was released on the album's first single. And they became a top 10 hit in the U.S., peaking at number 3 in the Billboard Hot 100 in February of 1982, number 1 on the Billboard Rock Top Tracks chart, and number 41 in the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart. And according to a website I found called B as in boy, 102.7.com, under like the article called Rock Concerts Opening Acts, the Good, the Bad, and the Bizarre. I did not know this, but Elton John's Jump Up Tour played an outdoor date at Irvine Meadows in Irvine, California, and the opening up was, you guessed it, Portland, Oregon's own Quarterflash. So they opened for Elton John. Wow! They were riding high off the success of their top 10 self-titled debut album, Quarterflash, which spawned a pair of top 20 singles, Heart in My Heart and Find Another Fool. So, of course, he heard about that, like, hey, let's have him open up for them. And I'm glad they did because, as it said in the article, the band sounded great, but their days in the top 40 were fleeting, with only one more song, Take Me to Heart, hitting the charts a year later. So three songs that they were able to get in the charts. After that, no charting. Worldwide, the song charted in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, the UK, and German-speaking Europe. So also loved by the Europeans. Check out the music video, because I had to look at it not once, twice. It's at a 14 million view. It's really crazy. So according to songfacts.com, it was released the same year MTV went on air. So the video contains many, and they say, random images that has nothing to do with the song, including jugglers with fire, a little person, a makeup table in the desert with actors, child actors that look like Randy Ross in different age, like 10, 8, 12. Well-dressed guys on motorcycles. We'll touch on that in a second. A sax solo in the rain by Randy herself. Amazing. And apparently, per the article, it was fairly common in the early 80s to throw a lot of disjointed scenes into the videos in an attempt to create a memorable image, which it did. And then there's a parts where Randy is wearing a tuxedo at the end, and then throughout while she's running through the corridors, she's wearing black leotards, I think ballet slippers, and black tights. The song video features theatrics in and around an office trailer with dark corridors with wood paneling and swinging metal light bulbs from the ceiling before it was bulldozed and torched by a man dressed in a tuxedo, I believe, wearing a sparkly white motorcycle helmet with a flamethrower, as one does. It's interesting because when I watched it once and the second time, I'm like, wow, this reminds me of other videos I've seen by Daft Punk. So I wonder if Daft Punk got their idea, because the use of the extras wearing these cool suits and then white, sparkly motorcycle helmets throughout the music video. So I thought, oh, very Daft Punk. Yeah, so maybe Daft Punk got their look and imagery from Quarterflash, aka Seafood Mama. If you have any great suggestions like this misheard song lyric of Quarterflash, no, it's not, I'm going to swallow my tears, but it does sound like she's saying tears because she's singing tears like 2 syllables. Please send it to me at any of our social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, or just the old-fashioned email at misheard, that's MISSHEARD songs @gmail.com. Till then, keep singing the songs wrong. Bye.